Thank you. We appreciate it. Does anyone know about the rise of the mama bear in this room? That's right. So, as you all know, and as was recently spoke about in Virginia, it is my opinion that school policy is going to make or break elections. And the reason that I say that is the advocacy that Megan and I, my better looking half here, have been fighting for this past June. So a little bit about my background. I have a background in emergency service management and disaster preparedness, which I'll get into a little bit later. But Megan, why don't you talk about your background?
I'm a kindergarten teacher in Granite City with a master's degree in administration. And this all started because Ryan got tired of me nagging at him because I saw some flaws in our children's school district.
So those flaws are exacerbated by some of the COVID policies, mitigations, and things that are in effect. So let me get a little bit back to my background. That master's degree in disaster preparedness, my thesis and course of study was a pandemic. And at what point in time would the government violate civil liberties?
Well, isn't that convenient?
That's extremely convenient, right? So I'm just going to be completely honest with everyone in this room. So when the pandemic happens, what does Ryan do? I get to put on my badge of honor. This is what I have a specialty in. I get to keep and make everybody safe. So I started this pandemic process like most of you. We start and we want to do what's the right thing because that's what we're called to do as Americans. We're called to do what the right thing is. But then it keeps going and going and going. And why is that? Well, there's this thing called the Stafford Act. And in the Stafford Act, it gives the president and then the governor authority, executive authority, in which they have taken way too far and have gained power and control over. And they think that they now rule by administrative law, which is not law. So we were on a beach in Florida, and Megan, why don't you just start with who you met and what you started talking about, much to my dismay.
So I can befriend a tree. And while I was on the beach, I found a representative for Tennessee. And all the kids are playing and we're having a good time. And I figured out we're very like-minded. And he empowered me to get off the bench. And he wasn't very excited because here we are at the beach. And we started our group Speak for Students on Thursday to get parents' rights back in the classroom. There were some pressing issues that were getting ready to be voted on in Troy, where our kids go to school, and the board meeting was on a Monday. So we are feverishly emailing everybody, trying to figure out if we can get on the next agenda so that we can encourage our board members and our superintendent to vote for parent choice for mask mandates. And wouldn't you know, after about 6 hours of starting our Facebook group, our superintendent requested to get into the group. So we denied her. Number one.
So here's the important part about this, right? For those that don't know me, I absolutely despise what I'm doing right now. Oh yes, I've been on the school board circuit. That's my speaking engagements if you want to come see me. But I show up at just about every school board meeting. That's where I speak. That's where, I have advocacy for parents and for what it is that we're doing. And I've laid out all these outlines, about mask mandates, vaccine mandates, and everything that we've been fighting for. And in this county alone, I am proud that the board did pass a resolution in this county, right? This county passed a resolution that masks should be parent choice. And that resolution was passed. What most people don't know is because I was on the other side at one point in time, it did not make JB very happy. It became an all-out assault because I sat on some of these committees that developed some of these policies. He started sending the IDPH director down to Region 4. I got to take care of Region 4. It was all about Region 4. And unfortunately, he started off with the position that parents should have this choice right before school starts. And then he quickly flips. And now we have to have the masks back on our kids to go to school. From there, we now have teachers. They either have to be vaccinated or subject to weekly testing. So, through all of that, we have advocated and we've given, not us a voice, but it's all of you a voice. And we have found the power of the mama bear and the papa bear that have risen up. And with that, at this point in time, we have 145 school districts, over 700 plaintiffs. If it's certified as a class, we will have hundreds of thousands of plaintiffs that we are suing the governor of the state of Illinois, ISB, IDPH, and all of them. And we are fighting, and what he's most scared about right now, do you know one reason why probably we still have the masks on our kids? What he's most scared about that most people don't realize, it's not the masks. He's not worried about the masks. What he's worried about out this court case, this challenges the authority of his executive order under the Stafford Act, in which the ILCS does not codify and give him that authority. And he does not want that ruling. That is why he is fighting so hard. He has poured blood, sweat, and tears to change every law in the veto session that could affect this, because it's not our kids he's concerned about. He's concerned about the exercising that authority. Why don't you go ahead and talk, Megan, a little bit about your part?
Well, where do you even begin? So I want to give you some encouragement, because unfortunately, even though there's still a mask mandate in Illinois, I don't wear a mask anywhere. So first of all, except at work. But what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to encourage each other to walk into Walmart without your mask on. And do it together, right? And when you do that, you empower others. So I want to give you a couple of quotes. So Billy Graham was the first person to say that courage is courageous, and it stiffens the backbone of others when you exhibit it. So I have been, I don't know how many stores where I'm not wearing my mask, and someone will come up to me and they'll say, "Did you have your mask on when you walked in?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't." And they say, "Well, I'm sick of these masks." And I say, "Take it off." Walk with me and take it off. What's the worst thing that's going to happen to you? Someone is going to say, "Put a mask on." And at that point in time, you make the choice to leave and go patronize places that will not force you to wear a mask. So as a teacher, I am in Illinois, and I have decided that this year, I don't force my kids to wear a mask. If they put it on, great. If they don't, great. And I just wear it as a chin strap, and it's really cute, right here on my chin. Because I discovered last year that masking was hurting our kindergartners, and it was hurting our children. So my children are twins, and they went to kindergarten last year. And do you know they sat in a classroom for 6 hours and 15 minutes every single day, and they were not hugged. Not one person showed them affection. Not one. So my kids didn't feel safe at school, and they didn't want to go. And this is a place that they had gone to school for 3 years. They went to daycare at their elementary school, so they were used to being loved on. And so in June of 2021, my son, who had never heard me say anything negative about a mask, said, "I can't go to first grade in a mask, Mom." So, of course, my brain flipped, because he thinks all teachers are on the same side, and if one teacher says you have to wear a mask, well, then all teachers must say that. And I started searching for a place that would let my kids go without a mask. And I thought I found it. I thought I found this diamond in the rough. So quickly after we paid these registration fees, there was a mask mandate. So I will tell you that whereas I do think that mask mandates and vaccine mandates are absolutely evil, I think they're a distraction from what else is going on in the public school and the 2 laws that were just passed in Illinois. And you might be familiar with these 2 laws. It's called culturally responsive education. Have you heard of this? It's really critical race theory. It just has a different name. And the other one are these comprehensive sex education standards. They were passed this summer. I hope that you are taking notes. So I looked up these standards when they were passed, and I have a copy of just a few that I would like to read to you. Because yes, all of these things are a big deal, but this is much scarier, and there's a distraction. So we've heard about some of the wicked things that are going on in California and Washington State. Well, it's going on here too, but we've turned a blind eye to it. So in California, this has been going on for years, and I want to tell you the fruit of that spirit. 30% of the children in California identify as being transgender. Why? Because they've been taught to be transgender, right? So here are some kindergarten standards that you might want to be aware of, and these are mandated to be taught in 2022. Number 1, children in kindergarten will list medically accurate names for body parts, including genitals. So the last time I checked, I don't think that it's appropriate to teach 5-year-olds all the appropriate names for their genitals and other people's genitals. How about this? In kindergarten, they will be taught same gender, and they will also be able to explain it in kindergarten. Again, in kindergarten, they will be able to define reproduction. Now, this is sneaky. I have not taught my kindergartners or first graders about reproduction yet, but the reason why they teach it so little is because they teach that butterflies get to pick their gender. So should you. Let's continue. Define child sexual abuse and identify behaviors that would be considered child sexual abuse. Do you think 5-year-olds should be taught that they can be raped? No, right? I mean, the list goes on, and as it progresses, it gets worse. So in 3rd grade, it says they will be taught and they have to explain the potential role of hormone blockers on young people who identify as transgender. So I'm going to teach you that you get to choose your gender, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Then it says, we're going to identify trusted adults who you can go to with your questions about gender. So don't go to your parents if you have a question about your gender. Come to us, these trusted adults. In 3rd grade, they're going to distinguish between sex assigned at birth and gender identity and explain how they may or may not differ. They're going to be able to define and explain the differences between cisgender, transgender, non-binary. I don't even know what this stuff is. I'm going to be honest. In Genesis, it says, I will make you male and female. So that's what I know with my master's degree in education, right? They're going to be able to explain that gender expression and gender ID exist on a spectrum, and you get to choose it. Then they're going to be able to define sexual orientation in 3rd grade. And last but not least, in 6th grade, when your children are 11 years old, they're going to be taught and define vaginal, oral, and anal sex. Then it says they're going to be able to identify factors that are important in deciding whether or not to engage in sexual behavior at 11. Do you think that boy's cute? Go ahead and have sex with him. Let's forget that we're teaching our children that that's something sacred that should be saved for when you're married and you're mature enough to engage in that. But then, last but not least, in 6th grade, when you have decided to be sexually active and now you're pregnant, you can now define prenatal care. In 6th grade, so look this up, because this is terrifying. This is terrifying that a child at 5 years old is going to be so confused about their birth and then get to decide what they are. So you're telling me that I can identify as a unicorn, a tractor, or retired? Because the retired part would be nice right now. But I think this is all a distraction from the big picture, and that's the big picture. And this is just one of the state mandates that we should be concerned about. And the other one that's been a buzzword for years is social emotional learning. How many of your children go to school and practice yoga? All of them. All of them. Well, how many of you are Christians? So if you're a Christian, is it okay that your child is now practicing Buddhism? Buddhist? Well, that's the practice. How many of your children do a mindful minute every day? That's a Buddhist practice. The Bible says if you are not for me, you are against me. So there is no neutral education anymore. You can't just play with yoga and be a Christian at the same time. Because those practices are teaching your children that in and of themselves, they can take care of themselves. They don't need a savior. So when my son was being taught all this, and I thought it was fine, I thought it was great, he came home one day from being with the social worker because he has an IEP and he has a neurological disorder. So he has mandated minutes with the social worker. And he said, Mom, I need to talk to you about something for a second. My brain is broken. And I said, oh, what do you mean your brain's broken, buddy? And he goes, well, I was talking to Mr. So-and-so, and he gave me all these techniques for what I'm supposed to do when I'm anxious, but they don't work. And I said, do you know why they don't work? And this was a defining moment for me as a parent, because in Deuteronomy it says that you are your child's first teacher. And everything you do, you are supposed to be teaching them about God, right? And he goes, yep, I do my rainbow breathing, and it doesn't work. I'm still anxious. And I do my yoga, and I meditate, and it doesn't work because I'm still anxious. And I said, do you know why it doesn't work? Because we're forgetting when it doesn't work, when the world standards don't work, it turns your need for a savior. And so that's when I started teaching my son to memorize scripture, right? And we've got to get back to this. So we need to take apart the things that your child is learning in school. You need to go through their folder. You need to be in contact with their teacher. You need to start writing opt-out letters today. No, you will not read a book about transgenderism to my preschooler, which it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. And you need to make sure that these letters are very specific. Go to our website. They're already there, and you need to print them out because your children are being completely indoctrinated, and we don't even realize it. The first time I saw on a kindergarten Facebook group the post, hey, it's June, it's Pride Month, what are you guys getting ready to teach? Show us your resources. And I thought, that doesn't happen in kindergarten. And then 350 people responded to it, and I thought, holy crap, that's happening in kindergarten. What did your kid learn about Christopher Columbus? Did they learn that he was a missionary? No. We're being taught that he's a slave owner and that he's evil. Education is not neutral anymore. It's just not. Be very, very careful. I am probably the only person in my school that reaches out, that has decided that I'm just going to teach and I'm not indoctrinating my babies and I am not going to deny them a hug. I don't care if it's the Rona or not. I'm just not doing it. And you need to do the same.
So we'll leave you guys with this. You know, we're called to follow God's commands, but we also have a conscience. And right now, you know, it's easily definable what the commands of God are, but what our conscience is not. And we are seeing an attack on our conscience right now. And Kim, for having to stand up for a conscience decision based on religious beliefs, they're attacking the unknown. And anyone that chooses to not do it, for whatever reason, meaning get vaccinated, I support that decision. I did get vaccinated, and 5 days of tachycardia, a hospital admission, and I am a side effect of it. So your conscience should not be attacked because you make a conscious decision. Thank you, guys.
What's your website?
Speakforstudents.org.
Speakforstudents.org, and it's also on Facebook. Yes.
Who is the person that comes up with these rules that they have to teach our kids?
I would love to tell you that. So if you search for these comprehensive sex education standards, you will see on like one of the first pages the organizations that wrote them.
I'll still email.
And so these organizations that wrote them are, I had them in my notes. Planned Parenthood funds it, but they didn't actually write these national standards, but they are, they're very scary. One thing, yes, we can help you with that. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, let's not forget that none of this is related to learning how to read, write,
No.
talk. It's not education at all.
No, and we're not great at that part,
In
so.
the United States, we do not lead in any area of education. Our our students are dumb as rocks for the most part when you compare them to other countries in the world.
But they're indoctrinated.
But, yeah, and the places over there aren't doing that to that degree. And they still be doing it, but not to that degree. And they're killing us. So we don't make anything here because, well, there's no reason to train anybody to make anything because we don't make anything.
Mhm.
So we keep on giving it more and more away, and we come over here and all of a sudden we're a country that can't make any money because we're all
Mhm.
socially just.
Yes, and the most dangerous people of all are the people that are silent, that just want to be safe, that don't want to make waves. Those are the most dangerous people of all. Yeah.
Are the gatekeepers for what are being taught to our children the school board?
Yes, because that school board can make that decision.
So that's where it starts and stops. There.
Hurdles would be the first one.
But with the sex education, our school board can't decide no, 'cause that's like.
Yes, they can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, that's right. But I wonder,
Yes.
can you tell everybody that they are allowed to opt out of the Savers, Fast Bridge, the social emotional component?
Yes, you
They're
are.
allowed to opt out.
Yes, you can opt out of anything that your child is learning. And our opt-out letters are a little bit, they're very specific. So if you go on Speak for Students websites, they're on there. But what we are requesting in our opt-out letters are very different because as a classroom teacher, I understand, I've seen opt-out letters and I've seen how teachers still get around it. So what we have requested in our opt-out letter is that your child will be in an alternative room if this is being taught or discussed. They will be given an alternative assignment and supervision. So they won't be in a closet. They won't be in the back of the room so they can still hear it. They won't be out in the hallway. Get what I'm saying? So you have to understand, I mean, it's amazing how many books are read to your children that you don't think about. Right? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a teacher at a private school in the area, and if we don't mask, even though we're a private school, if we don't mask and if we don't follow the vaccine mandates, they're weaponizing the Illinois State Board of Education against us and the IHSA, and they won't allow us to participate in IHSA sports, and they won't allow us to have break funding for low-income students.
That's been overruled. So if you go to our website, it's been overruled.
Is there, what does that mean exactly for, talk about that, can you just talk about that a little bit, because I don't understand why our private schools don't recognize that, or it's just not known enough.
So, just to answer it real quick, so the IHSA issue has already been to the appellate court. The appellate court has already said that basically that's unconstitutional. You cannot make that a mandate for your kids to play sports, and we throw that out. Completely independent. The governor in the darkness of night has restored everybody's recognition. Most people don't know that. Everybody's recognition has been restored. The threat's off the table. But the schools are still doing it. The school boards will not stand up on their own right now. And although we're suing 145 schools, we have given every single one of them that is a part of that lawsuit the ability to now have the plaintiff attorney that we have defend the schools. But you know what? These school boards are not brave. They're too scared because they got ESSER funds and they will not stand up for themselves.
So what the question that you're asking though, there were schools in Illinois that were put on like a probationary status because they decided to make it parent choice. But what we're saying is that in the middle of the night, that was revoked. So they have full status again. Like Dansville, Carlinville, they've sued and won.
So private schools are free to take off if anyone at this point.
That's going to be a decision the administration has to make, but there is no recourse, meaning all recognition has been restored. So there is obviously the threat, right? But they have restored all recognition. That's going to be a decision that they need to be bold, courageous, and make.
Good job.
Thank you, Megan and Ryan. Okay, last but not least, we have Kathleen Ramsey